Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep video for September 10th, 2024. Well, I hope everyone had a great afternoon, a good evening, got a lot of rest because we have another wild day ahead of us. Now, unfortunately, it may be kind of a choppy wild day today as we wait for a CPI report on Wednesday, but I would expect some price gyration anyway because we have a very emotional market. Let's take a look at what happened overnight. First off, if we take a look at Asian markets were mostly higher last night. The Nikkei was down, feeling a little bit of pressure, but everything was up, but pretty much modestly. There wasn't any major gains or drops in Asian markets last night. If we take a look at European markets this morning, European markets, however, are rather mixed. We've got the DAX lower at 0.03%, the FTSE down at 0.45%. CAC is lower by 0.39%. So a little bit of mix going on, but again, pretty modest in the moves. U.S. futures this morning are, at least at this moment, red across the board, but very modestly so, basically flat. A 0.02% decline in the Dow futures, S&P 0.01, and the NASDAQ 0.15, all lower here this morning. If we take a look at oil prices here this morning, I'm going to go to OIH, Oil Holders ETF, and you can see just slightly lower here this morning. Tried to pop up a bit yesterday, couldn't get really going, and this morning maybe just a little bit lower here on oil. And if we look at producers, well, they're popping and dropping here this morning in the pre-market, and we've got oil right now down 59 cents at 68.12 a barrel. Brent crude down 56 cents at 71.28 a barrel as we continue to see supply disruptions. Now with the Hurricane Francine in the Gulf Coast, they're now expecting that to strengthen into a hurricane and causing some issues in the Gulf. And then, of course, the whole demand situation here in the United States, Europe, and China as these economies decline. If we take a look at bond prices here this morning, our bond prices, we got the 2-year bond at 3.68%. The 10-year is at 3.71%, moving up just slightly, and the 30-year is up to 4.01%. Probably just that acknowledgement of worry about what that CPI might be, and they're just ticking a little tiny bit higher. If we take a look at gold or precious metals this morning, well, we've got GLD trying to go a little bit higher. Right now, gold futures are up $2.30 an ounce, trying to move a little bit higher. We've got silver also trying to move up just a little tiny bit. Copper and palladium are lower, but we have, copper and platinum are lower. Palladium is gapping a little bit higher here this morning, moving up by $12.50 an ounce. If we take a look at what's going on in cryptos here this morning, well, yesterday Bitcoin had a really good day, really pushed up strongly, but kind of modest here this morning. Bitcoin right now is up 193.95 a coin. Ether being up $4.69 a coin. Litecoin, there's some mix in there. Litecoin is actually lower here today, so keep an eye on those here this morning. So what does all that mean for today? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I do truly appreciate it. Well, yesterday was quite an interesting day with the diamonds getting most of the love, really pushed hard yesterday, and then faded back in the afternoon, pulling back after coming up here, testing this resistance, trying to break out of there, and it just couldn't quite get her done, and then faded back a little bit. We did rally just a little bit right into the close. So looking at this chart, if the bulls can continue to find inspiration, well, we can see right across here, that's going to be the target. Can we break through that area? Can we push up through there and try to break out? We have the possibility, if you'll notice, that these two tops right here, these two wicks, if I go right there, the high point was 411. Yesterday, it was 410.89. So essentially a tweezer type top potential that could be setting up in there if this were to follow through to the downside. But if those bulls can push right on through there, then we'd look for that breakup here, and then we'd start looking into some of these areas of the chart to see if we can start breaking back toward the all-time highs here in the diamond. So watch that carefully as we start that attempt to push back up. Now, if the bears were to find inspiration, same thing's pretty easy to see. We've got this nice little support area in here on that chart from yesterday. That possibility of pushing down into here wouldn't be out of the question. Breaking below that, of course, would probably raise some considerable concern. We've got little bitty areas of potential price support, but I think that chance that we could come on down and test the low here of last Friday is relatively high if we were to break this first initial support. Breaking down below there, of course, we have a gap that could be filled, and that would make for a very ugly pullback in the market and probably would raise some fear if we start moving down into that gap on the diamonds. Now, keep in mind, our 50-day moving average is right down here just as we slide into that gap. And we can't rule out the possibility of a test of the 50-day moving average if the bears find inspiration at all. If we take a look at our S&P 500, the SPY, nice inside day yesterday pushing up, but unfortunately it didn't have or enjoy the energy that the Dow enjoyed. So we still need to try, if the bulls are going to continue to engage, we need to see them break that resistance right there. And if they can break that resistance, then we'll start looking up in here to see if we can push back up to this major resistance in the chart, and then pushing through there, well, you can kind of see those levels up above. If the bears were to find the inspiration today, well, I'm suggesting that the possibility would be come back down here and test yesterday's low, see if we can hold that as support. If that fails, of course, we would probably raise some concern in the market if we're back down here testing the low on Friday. Breaking down below there is where it gets pretty ugly, and you can see we've got little tiny bit of support down in here that might catch us in the chart if we were to continue on lower. Now remember, we are still below our 50-day moving average, and we've got a moving average squeeze up above here that could push us lower as well. And remember also that we've got a CPI report coming out on Wednesday morning that could provide the energy that we need here in the market for the SPY to jump back above its 50-day moving average or be much lower. So just remember, as you're planning ahead, be careful on how you're trading and how many positions you're holding heading into a major market moving number like that. If we take a look at our QQQ, well, pretty soft on the day yesterday. It did move up pretty substantially an inside day, but you can see we've got a long ways to go before we're going to be up here even testing the top side of that black candle of Friday. So we've got a big upside move yet to do to break through there. And if we can break through there, then we're going to start looking for some of these areas up in here to see if we can push up in the chart. And we've got a lot of resistance above. If the bears find inspiration, well, pushing back down here, retesting that low looks like a possibility in the chart on the QQQ, and breaking down below there, well, you can see down in here there's all kinds of little teeny tiny support levels that might catch, but the larger area of support is going to be right down in here. If I pull this back, you can see over on the bottom side of this support area in there. So watch carefully for that. Also, reminder, we are below our 50-day moving average, and if we were to push on lower to the 200-day, wouldn't be a major surprise if that were to occur. But remember, we've got that CPI number that could change everything, both up or down. This moving average squeeze up here underneath the 50-day is certainly going to have some impact as we try to rally to the upside, however. And then if we take a look at our IWM kind of rough on the day yesterday. It tried to get going, ended up fading back, giving most of that pop to the upside. And you can see we got a little bearishness coming in here this morning. This is a pretty important area of support or resistance in the chart. And if we can find that bullish inspiration, then we need to get up through there and hold that. And then we can start pushing up and start checking out that Friday high to see if we can beat that big black candle and then start moving through these progressive areas back up in IWM. If the bears, however, find that inspiration, well, you could see it really wouldn't be all that hard to see a test of this area even potentially fail. Wouldn't even take that much of a push, and then we're going to start looking at levels down through here to see if we can catch some support in the Russell. Now on the Russell, we're also well below our 50-day moving average. That moving average squeeze is forming up in here. We're about equal distance between coming back up and retesting our 50-day and going down to test our 200-day, a little bit more to the downside to get to that 200-day. But remember that data tomorrow certainly has that potential to move us in that big a move. So once again, plan your trading carefully. We could be up here, we could be down here pretty easily tomorrow on those numbers. Let's take a look at our VIX. Now our VIX yesterday really didn't get a whole lot done. We ended up pulling back here in the VIX, easing some of that concern or pressure, but you'll notice all we did was hold that support. So we still run that risk here in the VIX. If the bears were to find that engagement, well, that possibility of a higher low in here, developing that little upside trend. And same thing that occurred over here, and that's what created that big sell-off in the market. So watch that carefully here. That possibility of that push to the upside is there if the bears engage. If the bulls happen to engage, well, then what we need to see this do is we need to see this test this area of support and break it down and start pushing back down in here for the market to say, now we're not worried at all, things are great, all is well. So watch carefully for that possibility if they can engage. If we take a look at our T20s, our T21-22 had a pretty good day yesterday, relieving some of that pressure from that bullish reversal zone. We were down here on Friday at the close, bounced up nicely. At one point in time yesterday, we were up here at 50%, and then that fade in the day pushed us back down before we came into the close. So nice little relief rally. What that means is if the bulls can find inspiration, we certainly have upside opportunity. So kind of keeping in mind that CPI report on Wednesday could have major impact to the upside. But we also know that when we relieve that selling pressure, we open up that opportunity of more selling coming in. So if the bears were to find inspiration, we've certainly given ourselves some room to move back to the downside. And then if we take a look at our T2108, or T2108, looking at that, you can see that push back up starting to happen here in T2108, but I got to tell you, that wasn't real impressive yesterday. We ended the day about 40.5% of the stocks above their 40-day moving average. This is a good hold of some support here in the chart. But again, it didn't really show a whole lot of enthusiasm to push back up, which is pretty normal when we're facing some big economic numbers. We may see today be really choppy as we wait. There's not much on the earnings calendar or the economic calendar to really inspire. So it's possible we could have a very light choppy day as we wait for that CPI to report. Now, when I say light and choppy, remember this market is pretty emotional, and we can have some big swings in price action in that choppiness and still not get anything done as far as improving the technical picture of the charts. If we take a look at T2107, the percentage of stocks above the 200-day moving average, pretty much the same thing, a little bit of lift. We made it back above 50%. We got about 50.5%, so about equal weight on the number of stocks above their 200-day and the number of stocks below their 200-day. So we held a support level, and that's a good sign. Whether we have enough momentum or energy to start pushing up and testing some resistance levels in the chart, that's something to be seen. And our T2101, remember, we are running out of time here for the corporate buybacks to really have much effect. By mid-month, we're going to have about 50% of our companies in their blackout period and will not be able to do anything as far as corporate buybacks. So be kind of careful in here. We did catch a little tiny rise here, but even with that big push point-wise in those indexes, we didn't see it being accompanied by a lot of market breadth, which may actually increase or embolden the bears to push a little bit harder. If the bulls can't come in and show that they've got a lot of strength, the bears will sometimes come in and show that they do. So watch that carefully here on the day. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, we've got a few things that we're going to have to be paying attention to here on the day. Didn't have that sized already for everybody to see, so let's get that done. And as you can see here on the day, a very light day, really nothing of major consequence today. We're going to have the NFIB Small Business Optimism report, so keep an eye on that. As a matter of fact, let me refresh this. Yeah, we've already had it. Came in at 91.2. Consensus was looking for 93.3, and the prior was 93.7. So we have declined on small business optimism. So that's not helping. We've got Barr speaking today at 10 o'clock. We've got a bond auction here, 3-year note, and Treasury buyback results. So as we move into Wednesday, or think about Wednesday, I think everybody's already thinking about Wednesday. That CPI report will be Wednesday morning before the bell, and likely going to be a market mover, whether up or down in the market. You decide. Watch carefully for that. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar here today, and our earnings calendar is equally light. There's not a whole lot in here. This morning we're going to have notables I've pulled out. We've got ASO will be reporting. We've got CGNT reporting this morning. Looks like we got a little bullish action going in that this morning, maybe helping out a little. This afternoon we have kind of a gaming theme. We've got GameStop that will be reporting. We've got Dave & Buster's that will be reporting, and WOOF will be reporting. So yeah, not exactly the kind of stocks that move the market a bunch. Inspiration today could be a little bit hard to find. One of the things that when we find a market like this, we have to kind of keep an eye to the news. Sometimes the news becomes the inspiration of the market, so keep an eye on that news cycle. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click the bell icon when it pops up, so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, and then click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who takes the time to do that. I truly appreciate it. Shares these videos on your social media feed. That helps an awful lot. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up. But remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence. Be very, very careful in this market, and make sure you're paying very close attention to the economic data that could have major impacts as you're planning through the day. Remember, the purpose of the morning market prep video is to set our mind as to, are we really bullish in what we see in the charts? Are we really bearish in what we see in the charts? Or are we more neutral? I gotta say today, kind of in that neutral place, because it's just a big hurry up and wait for those Wednesday numbers. Although some volatility could come in based on news, we can be popping up a little, pulling back a little. I would be really careful. I think there's a big chance that we just chop today. So make sure you're planning carefully on how you approach any stock trade for today. So let's take a look at a few of these. And there's quite a few things moving around, and I gotta tell you, we continue to see utilities doing a pretty darn good job here. Utilities continuing to run in this upside trend, still looking bullish. You can see they pulled back a little bit here, a couple of days. Buyers stepping up in here yesterday, pushing to the upside. And you can just go into that sector, and there's a whole bunch of stocks showing bullishness. AEE, beautiful little pattern here, pushing right up off of that trend, looking good in that chart. Southern Company pulling back, could be setting up for the next upside move. Consolidated Edison showing that nice little bullish push in here to the upside. And you can go through that list. There are a lot of good looking charts setting up in that utility sector. The same thing I'm going to say if we look at our consumer staples. The XLP itself, very bullish pattern, coming in here on a support and trend, finding those buyers, pushing up in here yesterday. And if you look through that sector, there are a lot of good looking charts and kind of defensive sector type things making some moves. Now, I don't count Hormel in this move, but I wanted to bring it up. This big gap down and then zooming right back up. What I need to see here in Hormel is a little bit of a resting consolidation to hold, and then maybe look for that upside move. I'm going to say the same thing here. TAP had quite an interesting move where we consolidated tightly and popped. If you didn't catch that big popping move, then I would be watching right in here as we consolidate against this resistance here in the chart, and I would look for that next opportunity to catch the entry in here for that to pop and break on through. Kimberly-Clark looking beautiful in that upside trend. Every reason to believe that could continue to run higher, breaking through resistance, showing that nice trend to the upside. Things like Philip Morris continue to look very good, stretching on higher. We have things like Kraft Heinz looking good. We're banging our head against this resistance in the chart, but any push here in the market bullishly in this sector, I see that opportunity of breaking on through. Dr. Pepper Keurig. We could look at Hershey moving up nicely. Monster Beverages pushing up here, pressing resistance in the chart. Again, Probably needs a little rest or a little consolidation, but it might do that after it pops through up here. So lots of stuff in this chart showing bullishness all over the place in these rather boring type places in the market, but very good bullish moves to the upside. Good dividend payers, good safety plays. It seems to be the place for the market. Now, if we were to take a look at other safety plays in the market, I'm going to have to go to things like precious metals. Gold could be setting up. Now, this consolidation in here is really choppy, been really choppy. But we have that possibility breakout up here, and we're at all-time highs. So if we see a real defensive move coming in the market, I would watch for gold to maybe break on out of there for those all-time highs in the market. I certainly can't say that for silver. Silver's got more work to do here in the chart, still moving in a downtrend and still below some resistance. So can't say the same here on the silver trade. You might also want to be keeping a close eye on bonds. Bonds are going to be really important. Those bond yields are ticking up a little bit this morning, and could see TLT pull back just a little bit. But if we get data tomorrow in the CPI that says, oh no, not only are we going to get a quarter rate cut, we could get that 50 basis point cut, then I would expect to see TLT jump through that resistance in the chart and maybe really start to pick up some momentum in an upside move. You could also look at things like BND for that same situation. There was a report out yesterday saying that bonds may be in favor for the next 12 months or so in a rate cutting cycle. Remember, a rate cutting cycle can last up to a year, and those bonds could start looking pretty darn good in BND after breaking through this resistance. Certainly looks like it's got that potential. So keep an eye on bonds, bond funds here in the market. There may be some opportunity setting up there in those safety type plays. Other places that you might be able to look, there are individual stocks that are showing some signs of bullishness. You know, take a look at things like AT&T, another old boring company, but my goodness, what a run AT&T has made. I'm looking for a rest or pullback in there. Right now I'm holding a position in AT&T up 56%, so I probably got a little bit of bias on it. But watch that carefully here. A little rest or pullback is likely coming on that. Take a look at Verizon. Verizon had a great day yesterday, popping hard. Been really volatile right in here, but if this could consolidate or rest this back just a little bit, I might look for that next opportunity in Verizon if that could hold. Also saw I don't know why cannabis or MSOS got a big push yesterday, but a big pop and run up in MSOS. Now, you want to keep in mind we're still in a downtrend here, so nothing too impressive on that just yet. But if we can deal with this resistance and that downtrend in the chart and pop through and hold, then I'm going to have some interest. So keep an eye on MSOS. That might be something interesting in the market. On the short side of the market, well, if we continue to look at tech, there are some issues and problems there in tech. Google, you probably saw in the news today, got a confirmation. The top court there in Europe upheld their major fine for antitrust things, continuing to push to the downside, looking awfully bearish here, breaking down through its 200-day. Now, I wouldn't chase this to the downside right now. I would need a rally back up, but any rally back up toward that 200-day may set up that short to the downside. When we see stocks like Apple after its big product release yesterday, it also moved lower, noticing that we've got a bit of a moving average squeeze up here, and they also got hit by a European court. for a big potential situation, big money, potential billions of dollars. So watch that carefully here. We do have that possibility that this is a lower high in Apple. If we look at other things here in that sector, taking a look at AMD. AMD definitely not looking good here, continuing to push down. As a matter of fact, if we look at the moving averages, we have the death cross, the 50 crossing down through the 50 or through the 200. Not looking good. Any rally back, I would be looking for the possible short coming into those trades. So a lot of the tech running into those problems and showing those potential short patterns in quite a few places. So watch those carefully. Things like FTNT, big strong move to the upside, just a resting pullback. This could find support in here and find those buyers and push on up. I think that's worth keeping an eye on. You might want to be paying close attention to things like Mosaic, some of these agricultural stocks just falling out of bed. And again, it has to do with demand problems here in the United States. So any rally back up on that would set up an opportunity. There's quite a few things for you to look at here today. A lot of things moving around. Remember, might be a hurry up and wait day as we wait for that CPI, and then anything is possible on the CPI. We could get any kind of price movement in here. But one thing is for sure, we're seeing our economies weaken around the world. So be kind of careful. I think the recession may be on the way. So with that, have an awesome day, everyone. I want to wish you all the best success in your trading. Thank you so much for listening. And I'll see you right back here bright and early Wednesday morning. As always, I wish you all the very, very best.